All right, let's dive in. We're going to look at a book that, honestly, doesn't just bend the rules of business, it pretty much lights the entire rulebook on fire. It's called Rework. And trust me, it's designed to challenge basically everything you've ever been taught about work.
So let me ask you something. What if that standard business playbook, you know the one, with the 5-year plans, the constant pressure for growth, chasing venture capital, what if that's the very thing that's actually holding you back? The authors of Rework, well, they'd say that old way isn't just a little outdated, it's completely broken.
Yeah, the core message here is a total takedown of business as usual. It's basically saying, forget those long-term plans. They're just fancy guesses anyway. Forget this obsession with constant growth. And you know what? Forget the real world, at least the one the naysayers are always talking about.
And look, this isn't just some academic theory cooked up in a university. Rework comes straight from the trenches, from the real-world experiences of the folks at 37 Signals. They're a pretty small software company that basically proved you can tear up the rulebook and still build a seriously profitable business. Okay, so before we can build up this new way of thinking, we gotta tear down the old one first. The book kicks off with a series of what it calls takedowns, just dismantling all those sacred cows of the business world. And we're gonna start with a phrase I'm sure you've heard a million times.
You know the one, right? You have this great idea, and someone immediately shoots it down with, oh, that would never work in the real world. Well, Rework says that's just an excuse. It's an excuse for not even trying. This real world they talk about, it's usually just a code word for pessimism, a place where new, exciting ideas go to die. The big takeaway here is so important. Their real world does not have to be your reality.
All right, another big idea that really holds people back is this myth of preparation. You know that feeling that you need to have every single detail figured out before you can even start? And that mindset, it leads directly to one of the biggest time wasters in the entire business world.
Long-term business plans. Let's be honest, they're basically a fantasy. They're just guesses. I mean, you can't predict the market, you can't predict your competitors, you definitely can't predict the economy. So that big, detailed plan, it just gives you a false sense of security and locks you into a path that could be totally wrong by next month. The advice here is simple and so much better. Just forget the 5-year plan. Decide what you're going to do this week.
You know how everyone's always talking about failing forward or celebrating failure? Well, Rework completely flips that idea on its head. Think about it. Learning from your mistakes, that just teaches you what not to do. But learning from your successes, now that gives you a formula you can repeat. It shows you what actually works, so you can do more of it. That's the experience that really matters.
Okay, let's talk about money. The default move for so many startups is to go out and chase investors, right? Rework calls this Plan Z, and for a very good reason. The second you take that outside money, guess what? You're not the boss anymore. Your focus completely shifts from taking care of your customers to just keeping your investors happy. It's a massive distraction, and suddenly, you're living on their timeline, not yours.
And of course, that pressure from investors almost always leads to another obsession, the need to get big, and get big fast. We're all conditioned to ask, so how big is your company? But the authors want us to ask a much, much better question.
And that question is, what's so wrong with finding the right size for your business and just staying there? Why does expansion always have to be the goal? Small isn't just some stepping stone on the way to being big, it can be an amazing destination all by itself. Staying small keeps you nimble, flexible, and free from all the craziness that comes with trying to scale up.
And hey, just like big isn't always better, busy isn't always better either. The book really takes aim at how our culture celebrates the workaholic. They argue that the person pulling all-nighters isn't a hero. They're just inefficient. Workaholics don't find smart shortcuts. They just throw more and more hours at a problem. The real hero? It's the person who gets the same work done in less time and actually goes home at 5.
This all leads to one of the book's really cool core ideas. As companies get bigger, they start to accumulate what the authors call mass. And it's just like in physics. The more massive an object is, the more energy it takes to change its direction. Same thing with a business.
So what is this mass they're talking about? Well, it's all the stuff that just weighs you down. You've got long-term contracts that lock you in. You've got too many employees. You have permanent decisions that you can't undo. Meetings. Thick, complicated processes. Too much inventory. It's all the baggage. The goal is to stay lean and light so you can pivot on a dime.
Okay, so we've torn down all those old, tired ideas. So what's the alternative? Let's get into the actual, actionable philosophy of Rework. This is the good stuff. It's all about doing, not just endless planning.
And the shift in thinking is huge. Instead of writing a plan, you just start making something. Instead of trying to raise a ton of money, you figure out how to do it with less. Instead of building a big team right away, you stay lean. And maybe the most important one, instead of waiting for everything to be perfect, you launch right now. It's all about moving from just thinking about it to actually doing it.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, the path forward is refreshingly simple. First, solve a problem that you actually have. Scratch your own itch. Then, build half a product, but make that half amazing. A great half is way better than a half-assed whole. Focus all your energy on the epicenter, the one part that's absolutely critical. And then, you launch it. Get it out there.
Now, to actually build something this way, you need a totally different mindset. It's not about these huge, grand gestures. It's about finding a steady, consistent rhythm of making progress.
The Rework way is all about embracing small, quick decisions. Why? Because those huge, monumental decisions are paralyzing, and they're almost impossible to reverse. But a whole series of small, quick choices? That lets you keep moving forward without the risk of some catastrophic mistake. Every little decision is like one more brick in your foundation. You can't build on "we'll decide later," but you can always build on "done."
And you know what those small decisions create? Something absolutely critical: momentum. Just getting things done, checking items off a list, launching a tiny new feature. These small wins are what fuel your motivation. Think about it. The longer a project just drags on, the less likely it is to ever get finished. You've got to keep that momentum going.
And finally, a really key piece of advice. Build your business on things that are not going to change. Seriously, forget chasing the latest trend or the newest hot thing. Instead, focus on the fundamentals that people will always value. Things like speed, simplicity, great customer service. Fashions come and go, but those core needs, they're absolutely timeless.
So let's end with what might just be the most important line in the entire book. Inspiration is perishable. Just let that sink in. That amazing idea you have right now, it has an expiration date. That spark of motivation you're feeling, it's not going to last forever. The entire Rework philosophy really boils down to this one simple call to action. Don't wait, don't overplan, just start right now before that inspiration spoils.